As the afternoon sun begins its gentle descent toward the distant western hills, we find ourselves approaching the mighty walls of Constantinople, the great city that sits between two worlds, cradled between continents and seas. The ancient stones of the Theodosian walls rise before us, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, glowing now in the softening light of approaching evening. These walls have witnessed countless sunsets, each one a quiet reminder of the eternal rhythm that governs this extraordinary place. The air is warm and still carries the heat of the day, but there is a subtle shift beginning, a softening at the edges of everything, as if the entire city is taking a slow, deep breath before the transition into night. We pass through the Great Gate, its massive wooden doors standing open to welcome the last travelers of the day. And as we step across that ancient threshold, we enter a world where time seems to move differently, where the modern concerns of our lives fade away like morning mist beneath the rising sun. Here, in this moment, we are simply observers of beauty, witnesses to the timeless dance of light and shadow that transforms this magnificent city each evening. The cobblestones beneath our feet are smooth and worn, polished by millions of footsteps across the ages, and they lead us gently forward into the heart of Constantinople. Around us, the sounds of the day are beginning to soften. The calls of merchants grow less frequent. The rumble of cartwheels becomes occasional rather than constant. And beneath it all, we can hear the first whispers of evening, the subtle sounds that will soon define the nighttime character of this place. We are in no hurry. There is nowhere we need to be except here, in this peaceful moment of transition, as the great city prepares to trade her daytime garments for the softer, more mysterious attire of evening. We make our way slowly along the wide avenue that leads toward the Golden Horn, that remarkable inlet of water that gives the city one of its finest natural harbors. On either side of us, merchants are beginning their evening rituals, the practiced movements of closing up their stalls and shops for the night. There is something deeply soothing about watching these familiar routines, actions performed with the ease that comes only from years of repetition. A carpet seller carefully rolls his wares, his hands moving with gentle precision over the intricate patterns of wool and silk. Each carpet tells a story in its design, geometric patterns from the east, flowing arabesques, deep reds and blues that seem to hold the fading light. He works without hurry, taking time to fold each piece properly, treating these objects with the respect they deserve. Nearby, a potter arranges his remaining bowls and vessels, stacking them carefully in wooden crates lined with straw. The ceramics catch the golden light, glazes in cream and turquoise, simple forms shaped by skilled hands at the wheel. The sound of clay gently touching clay creates a soft percussion, a quiet music of closing time. The fruit sellers are gathering what remains of their produce, the late afternoon having depleted their colorful displays. What remains? A few pomegranates with their leathery skin, some dates, a handful of figs. They pack carefully into baskets, nothing wasted, everything treated with care. The scent of ripe fruit mingles with the dust of the street and the salt air drifting up from the water. We pause for a moment to simply observe, to let the peacefulness of these simple actions wash over us. There is no anxiety here, no rushing. Each merchant knows that tomorrow will bring another day, another opportunity. For now, there is only the gentle work of completing what needs to be done before the light fails completely. As we continue our leisurely walk toward the harbor, the great buildings of Constantinople begin to reveal themselves more fully. The domes and towers that define the city's skyline are transforming in the evening light, their surfaces catching and holding the amber and gold tones of the descending sun. The greatest of these is the magnificent dome of the Hagia Sophia, that architectural marvel that seems to float impossibly above its supporting walls, appearing almost to hover between earth and heaven. In this light, the building seems to be made of honey and cream, its ancient stones glowing with an inner warmth. The smaller domes surrounding it, the towers and minarets that punctuate the skyline, all of them are touched by this same gentle radiance. It is as if the city is being blessed by the departing sun, gilded with its parting gift before the cool blues and silvers of twilight take hold. We find a quiet spot where we can look across the Golden Horn toward the water and the buildings beyond, and we simply stand here for a time, breathing slowly, taking in the extraordinary beauty of this moment. The water of the harbor reflects the sky, creating a mirror of soft colors, amber and rose and the palest gold, with streaks of deeper blue where the shadows are beginning to gather. Ships are making their way back to their moorings, their sails catching the last strong light, their hulls creating gentle ripples that spread across the calm water. We can hear the distant calls of the sailors, the creak of ropes and wood, the splash of oars, all of it muted by distance into a peaceful maritime symphony. The air is growing cooler now. We can feel it on our skin, that subtle shift in temperature that signals the approach of evening. It's pleasant, this cooling, a relief after the warmth of the afternoon. We draw a slow, deep breath, filling our lungs with air that carries the scent of the sea, the faint trace of wood smoke from cooking fires, the indefinable fragrance that belongs to this city alone. We turn now and begin to walk along the harbor edge, where the seawall meets the water, where Constantinople directly touches the element that has defined so much of its history and character. The stones beneath our feet are large and ancient, fitted together by craftsmen long ago with such skill that they have endured through the centuries. Small waves lap gently against the wall below us, creating a rhythmic sound that is one of the most soothing in all of nature. That patient, eternal conversation between water and stone. We can feel the rhythm of it entering our own bodies, our breathing beginning to match the tempo of the waves, slow and steady, in and out, like the tide itself. Along the harbor, fishing boats are being secured for the night, their work completed for the day. Fishermen move about their vessels with calm efficiency, coiling ropes, folding nets, performing the 100 small tasks that will ensure everything is ready for tomorrow. Their movements are unhurried, economical, the product of lifetimes spent on the water. One old fisherman sits on the edge of his boat, mending a net, his weathered hands moving with automatic precision through the familiar work. He doesn't look up as we pass. He is completely absorbed in his task, at peace with himself and his surroundings. Further along, we see a cluster of dock workers finishing their labors, securing cargo that has just been unloaded from a merchant vessel. Amphoras of wine and oil, bales of wool, crates of goods from distant lands. All of it is being carefully stored away in warehouses whose cool darkness will protect these treasures until they can be sold and distributed throughout the city. The work is hard, we can see that, but even here there is no sense of stress or hurry. The day's work is nearly complete, and what remains will be finished in good time. As the light continues to fade, becoming softer and more diffuse, the entire harbor scene seems to be dissolving into gentleness, the edges of everything becoming less distinct, blending into the gathering twilight. As the sun finally touches the distant horizon, the entire city seems to pause, holding its breath in reverence for this daily miracle of transformation. The light has shifted from gold to amber to the softest rose, and now there are hints of lavender and deep blue beginning to appear in the eastern sky. The domes and walls of Constantinople are no longer brightly illuminated, but instead glow with a gentle, reflected radiance, as if they have absorbed the light of the day and are now slowly releasing it back into the world. Shadows have grown long and soft, pooling in doorways and streets, creating a landscape of gentle contrasts rather than harsh divisions. We find ourselves at a small plaza overlooking the water, a quiet space where a few stone benches offer a place to rest and observe. We settle here, feeling the cool stone beneath us, solid and eternal, and we simply allow ourselves to be present in this moment. The bustling energy of the city has almost entirely dissipated now, replaced by a quality of deep calm, a sense of peace that seems to rise from the very stones of this ancient place. In the distance, we can hear the evening call to prayer beginning, the beautiful, haunting sound drifting across the city from multiple minarets, the voices overlapping and interweaving in a tapestry of sound that speaks to something deep within the soul. Even if we don't understand the words, we can feel the meaning: gratitude, reverence, peace, submission to something greater than ourselves. A few stars are beginning to appear in the deepening blue above, the first witnesses of the night. The evening star shines particularly bright, a point of silver light that seems to be watching over the city with benevolent attention. We breathe slowly, deeply, feeling ourselves settling, releasing the tensions and concerns of our own distant lives, allowing this peaceful evening in Constantinople to work its gentle magic upon our minds and hearts. Here in this timeless moment, we are safe, we are calm, we are at peace. The great city prepares for sleep, and we prepare with it, grateful for this opportunity to witness such beauty, such tranquility, such grace. And so we turn now from the golden walls and sun-kissed ramparts, moving deeper into the heart of Constantinople itself, where the great marketplace awaits us with its ancient rhythms and timeless evening rituals. Our path leads us down a gently sloping street, paved with smooth stones worn by countless footsteps across countless centuries, each stone holding the memory of merchants and travelers, of pilgrims and princes who have walked this very way. The air begins to change as we approach, growing richer, more complex, layered with the most exquisite fragrances that seem to weave themselves into an invisible tapestry suspended all around us. First comes the warm, woody sweetness of cinnamon, brought by caravan from distant lands where mountains touch the clouds. Then the bright, clean sharpness of cardamom, green and vital, mingling with the deep, mysterious warmth of cloves that carry within them the essence of far-off island groves. We move slowly, allowing each scent to register fully, to tell its story, to work its subtle influence upon our peaceful state of mind. The marketplace opens before us like a gentle revelation, not sudden or startling, but gradual and welcoming, as though the city itself is inviting us into one of its most treasured spaces. The covered sections of the market create a sense of shelter and intimacy, their arched ceilings, supported by columns that have stood steady and strong for generations beyond counting. Through the open sections, we can see the sky above transforming moment by moment, the blue deepening to violet, the first hint of stars beginning their eternal watch. Lanterns hang from iron hooks along the walkways, and we watch as merchants begin their evening ritual, lighting them one by one with long tapers, each flame catching and growing, casting its warm golden circle of light into the gathering dusk. The daytime bustle has softened considerably now, the urgent pace of commerce giving way to something more measured, more contemplative. Voices that earlier rang out with bold proclamations of quality and price now murmur quietly, almost musically, as the last transactions of the day are concluded with courtesy and grace. We pause at the entrance to the spice merchant section, drawn by the extraordinary concentration of aromas that emanate from this particular quarter. Here, sacks of fragrant goods stand open, their contents glowing in shades of gold, ochre, russet, and deep crimson. Turmeric bright as sunset, paprika soft as rose petals, saffron precious as gold thread. Each merchant tends to his wares with the careful attention of one who understands their value, their rarity, their journey from distant origins to this very stall. We observe an elderly merchant with a silver-threaded beard as he begins to close his shop for the evening, moving with the unhurried grace of long practice, folding cloth coverings over his most precious spices, securing containers, tidying his space with movements that are almost meditative in their measured rhythm. There is no stress here, no hurry, only the peaceful completion of the day's work and the anticipation of well-earned rest. The sounds of the marketplace create their own evening symphony, the soft rustle of silk being folded, the gentle clink of weights and measures being put away, the whisper of brooms sweeping the day's debris, the distant splash of water as someone rinses their hands at a public fountain. We allow these sounds to wash over us, neither seeking them out nor pushing them away, simply receiving them as part of this perfect Byzantine evening. We drift further into the market's embrace, our footsteps slow and quiet on the ancient stones, moving now toward the silk merchant's quarter, where fabric becomes art and commerce becomes poetry. The transition is marked by a subtle shift in the very air itself, the heavy, warm spice aromas giving way to something lighter, cleaner, touched with the faintest hint of rosewater and lavender used to scent the precious textiles. Here the stalls are arranged with particular care for beauty, for the silk merchants understand that they are selling not merely cloth, but dreams, possibilities, the very substance of elegance and grace. Bolts of fabric stand upright in specially crafted wooden holders, their edges catching the lantern light and transforming it into something almost liquid, a flowing luminescence that seems to move even when the cloth itself is perfectly still. We see silks in every conceivable shade, pale creams like early morning mist, soft blues like distant mountains at twilight, golds that echo the mosaics in the great churches, greens deep as forest shadows, and purples rich as imperial robes. A merchant unfurls a length of fabric to show a late customer, and we watch mesmerized as the silk floats through the air like water, like light itself, cascading in gentle waves before settling with a whisper against the display table. The movement is hypnotic, soothing, drawing the eye and quieting the mind. The merchant's hands move with practiced reverence, smoothing the fabric, allowing its natural beauty to speak for itself. No hard sell is needed here, no urgent persuasion. The silk's quality is evident to any who look upon it with discerning eyes. We notice how the silk merchants themselves often wear samples of their finest wares, their robes flowing gracefully as they move through their spaces, inadvertent ambassadors for their craft. A woman passes by, her silk shawl catching the breeze for just a moment, billowing gently before settling once more around her shoulders. The effect is like watching a butterfly's wings opening and closing, natural and beautiful, and somehow deeply peaceful. Between the stalls, we glimpse other aspects of the market's evening transformation. A young apprentice carefully sweeps the area around his master's shop, his movements steady and rhythmic, the soft whisper of the broom creating a sound like gentle waves upon a shore. An older woman tends to the flowers that adorn her fabric stall, fresh roses and jasmine that complement the scented textiles, removing faded blooms, adjusting stems, performing this small act of beauty with focused attention. Above us, the covered sections of the market filter the fading daylight through wooden lattices, creating patterns of light and shadow that shift almost imperceptibly as the sun continues its descent. These patterns play across the hanging fabrics, across the faces of the merchants, across the worn stones beneath our feet, connecting everything in an ever-changing geometry of shadow and illumination. We hear the distant sound of church bells marking the hour, their tones carrying across the rooftops, blending with the murmur of prayers from a nearby chapel. The sacred and the commercial exist side by side here, each respecting the other, each contributing to the complex fabric of Byzantine life. A merchant pauses in his closing tasks to bow his head briefly in acknowledgement of the bells, a moment of private devotion before returning to his earthly duties. The pace of activity continues to slow, like a great mechanism gently winding down, not stopping but shifting into a different mode, a nighttime rhythm that is calmer, more inward, more reflective than the energetic pulse of daylight hours. As we continue our gentle wandering, we find ourselves in a section of the marketplace where various crafts and goods intermingle. Here a stall selling ceramics glazed in beautiful blues and greens, there a vendor of fine leather goods, beyond that a merchant of prayer beads and religious icons. The diversity creates a rich tapestry of human enterprise, yet all of it is being conducted now with that same evening softness, that same gradual unwinding that marks this sacred transition from day to night. We pause beside a fountain that serves this section of the market, its presence both practical and aesthetic. Water flows from the mouth of a bronze lion, worn smooth by weather and time, the stream catching the lantern light as it falls into a circular basin lined with intricate tilework. Merchants and customers alike pause here to rinse their hands, to take a cool drink, to simply enjoy the peaceful sound of moving water. We listen to that sound now, allowing it to fill our awareness. The splash and gurgle as water meets water, the gentle overflow trickling into the drainage channel, the faint echo amplified by the stone surroundings. It is one of the most soothing sounds in all of human experience. This simple music of water following its nature, flowing ever downward, ever onward, constant and reliable as breath itself. A small group has gathered near a storyteller who is set up in a quiet corner of the marketplace, his presence announced by a single lamp hanging from a pole beside his low stool. Children sit cross-legged on carpet spread for this purpose, with a few adults standing at the edges, drawn by the ancient magic of narrative. The storyteller's voice is low and melodious, rising and falling like a gentle tide, weaving tales of ancient heroes and mysterious lands, of wise teachers and magical transformations. We cannot make out the individual words from our distance, but the rhythm of his speech is itself a lullaby, a demonstration of how human voices have been soothing listeners since time immemorial. The children's faces in the lamplight show rapt attention gradually softening into drowsiness, the very effect a good story should have at this hour, preparing young minds for the journey into sleep and dreams. Around the storyteller's circle, the marketplace continues its evening rituals. A carpet merchant rolls up his display pieces with practiced efficiency. The carpets themselves works of art that have taken months or years to complete, their patterns geometric and floral, their colors rich but somehow restful to the eye. He handles each one with respect, rolling it just so, securing it with cloth ties, stacking the rolled carpets with careful attention to their proper order. His movements have the quality of a ritual, something done the same way every evening, a dependable rhythm that marks the passage of time and the cycle of days. We notice, too, the way the merchants greet each other as they close their stalls, exchanging words we cannot hear, but whose warmth and familiarity are evident in tone and gesture. These are people who have worked side by side for years, perhaps decades, who have seen each other through good seasons and difficult ones, whose lives are interwoven by proximity and shared experience. A merchant finishing his closing tasks helps a neighbor secure a heavy shutter, the act of cooperation so natural and automatic it seems almost choreographed. This is community in its most fundamental form, people caring for one another in small, practical ways. The scent of incense grows stronger now, drifting from the direction of a nearby church as evening services begin. Frankincense and myrrh, ancient and evocative, carrying within them centuries of prayer and devotion. The smoke rises in delicate spirals, visible where it passes through shafts of lantern light, ascending toward the darkening sky like countless whispered prayers made visible. The marketplace grows quieter still as we move through its winding paths, the number of people gradually diminishing as merchants complete their closing rituals and make their way home to waiting families and evening meals. Those who remain move with particular slowness now, savoring these last moments of the day, reluctant perhaps to leave this space that has held their labor and attention since morning. We find ourselves in a section where precious goods are sold. Jewelry worked in gold and silver, illuminated manuscripts on vellum, carved amber, and polished gemstones that glow with inner light. Here the stalls are smaller, more secure, the merchandise carefully locked away in wooden chests and metal-bound boxes as evening deepens. We watch a jeweler as he performs this nightly ritual, handling each piece individually, a necklace of Byzantine gold, a ring set with a deep blue sapphire, a pair of earrings worked in intricate filigree. He examines each one briefly before wrapping it in soft cloth and placing it in its designated compartment, the care he takes speaking to both the material value and the emotional investment of his craft. These are pieces that will mark important moments in people's lives, betrothals, anniversaries, achievements, and handling them seems to be for him not merely a practical necessity, but an honor. The last customers are departing now, their purchases wrapped carefully, their exchanges with the merchants marked by mutual respect and often genuine warmth. A couple walks past us, the woman's hands cradling a package wrapped in cloth and tied with cord, her expression one of quiet satisfaction. Her companion's hand rests gently at her back as they navigate the marketplace's uneven stones, a small gesture of care and attention. They move unhurriedly, stopping once to examine a stall they hadn't noticed before, but ultimately continuing on their way toward home and rest. We notice how the sounds of the marketplace have simplified as the evening has progressed. Gone now are the complex layers of competing voices, the varied rhythms of active commerce. What remains is more fundamental. Footsteps on stone, the occasional word spoken softly, the rustle of fabric, the distant water of the fountain, the ever-present whisper of breeze moving through covered passages. These sounds do not demand attention. Instead, they create a gentle acoustic space that holds silence and sound in perfect balance. The lanterns burn steadily now, their flames protected from the breeze by glass and pierced metal, creating pools of golden light at regular intervals along the market paths. Between these pools, shadows gather gently, not threatening but inviting, suggesting rest and respite from the day's visibility. Our eyes have adjusted to this lower light, finding it not a privation but a gift, a natural dimming that signals to every part of our being that the active day is ending and the restorative night approaching. A cat appears, moving with that particular grace unique to felines, picking its way along the top of a low wall. It pauses to observe us with luminous eyes, determining that we pose no threat, then continues its evening patrol. The cat's presence reminds us that the city belongs not only to humans, but to all creatures who have made it their home. The birds nesting in the eaves, the cats hunting mice in the shadows, the insects singing their evening songs from hidden places. All are part of this great living organism that is Constantinople, each playing their role in the endless cycle of day and night, activity and rest. We begin to turn our steps away from the market's heart, having witnessed its transformation, having breathed its fragrances, having allowed its peaceful rhythms to work their gentle magic upon our minds. We carry with us the sense of having touched something timeless, of having participated, however briefly, in rituals that stretch back beyond memory, that will continue long after we have gone. As we prepare to leave the marketplace behind and continue our evening journey through Constantinople, we find ourselves at the edge where commerce gives way to sacred space, where the energy of human enterprise meets the timeless call to prayer and contemplation. From this threshold, we can look back across the market and see how completely it has transformed since we first entered. Where there was bustle, there is now tranquility. Where there was bright daylight, there is now gentle lamplight and gathering darkness. Where there were many voices, there is now the whispered music of evening settling over ancient stones. The view before us shows the market as a constellation of golden lights, each lantern a small sun creating its own warm world, all of them together forming a larger pattern that mirrors the stars beginning to emerge in the sky above. It is beautiful in a way that daylight beauty is not, more subtle, more suggestive, inviting contemplation rather than action. We stand quietly, allowing this image to imprint itself upon our memory, knowing that when we later seek peace in our thoughts, we will be able to return here, to this moment, to this perfect balance of light and darkness, sound and silence, activity and rest. A breeze moves through the marketplace, carrying with it all the mingled scents we have encountered: spice and silk, incense and flowers, leather and metal, bread from a baker's oven, wine from a merchant's amphora. These fragrances blend into a single essence that is uniquely Constantinople, uniquely this place, this time, this eternal evening moment. We breathe deeply, drawing this essence into ourselves, allowing it to become part of us as we become part of the scene we are witnessing. The church bells sound again, closer now, calling the faithful to Vespers, their tones deep and resonant, vibrating in the chest as much as the ear. We will follow that call soon, allowing it to guide us to our next destination. But for now, we simply stand and listen as the bells speak their ancient language across the rooftops and through the narrow streets. Each bell has its own voice, its own particular tone and timbre, yet all harmonize in a chord that is at once complex and perfectly unified. It is a sound that has marked the passage of Byzantine days for centuries, a sound that will continue long after we have departed, a sound that exists outside of time, even as it measures time's passage. A few merchants still remain, completing final tasks by lantern light, but they work in companionable silence now, each absorbed in their own rituals, each contributing to the marketplace's peaceful conclusion of another day. We see a spice merchant making notations in a leather-bound ledger, recording the day's transactions with careful script. We see a fabric merchant sitting quietly on a stool outside his closed stall, simply resting for a moment before beginning his walk home. We see an apprentice trimming lamp wicks, ensuring that the flames will burn cleanly through the evening hours when watchmen will patrol these paths. These final images of the marketplace at dusk become a gift we give ourselves, a collection of peaceful moments, of human life conducted with grace and intention, of ancient rhythms continuing their eternal dance. As we turn toward the sound of the bells, toward the sacred spaces that await us, We carry the marketplace with us, its scents, its sounds, its gentle rhythms, its reminder that even in the midst of commerce and daily necessity, there is room for beauty, for courtesy, for the peaceful completion of work well done. The stones beneath our feet will lead us onward, deeper into the evening, deeper into Constantinople's heart, deeper into the peace that awaits all who seek it with open hearts and quiet minds. The stones beneath our feet lead us forward now, away from the fragrant markets and silk-draped stalls, towards something older, something that reaches upward into the evening sky with a presence that has anchored this city for centuries. We follow the flow of people moving with quiet purpose through narrowing streets, their footsteps a soft percussion against ancient paving stones worn smooth by generations of pilgrims and worshippers. The air changes as we approach, becoming cooler, heavier with the scent of beeswax and frankincense, as if the very atmosphere grows more reverent in anticipation of what lies ahead. Above us, rising against the deepening twilight, the great dome of the Hagia Sophia emerges, that impossible hemisphere of brick and vision that seems to float weightlessly against the sky, defying gravity and time itself. Its surface catches the last golden rays of sun, transforming the exterior into a glowing ember, a beacon of sacred light that has guided the faithful through countless evenings just like this one. We pause at the threshold, joining others who stand in that liminal space between the everyday world and the sanctuary beyond, feeling the transition in our bodies, in our breathing, in the way our heartbeat seems to slow and deepen. The great bronze doors stand open, their surfaces polished by the touch of innumerable hands, darkened by age, but gleaming still where the last sunlight finds them. Beyond the threshold, we glimpse the interior, a vast shadowed space, punctuated by the warm flicker of candles, the gleam of gold, the sense of almost infinite volume contained within sacred walls. Someone rings a bell, high and clear, calling the faithful to vespers, and the sound shivers through the evening air like a prayer made audible. We step forward, crossing from the worldly into the divine, from the horizontal plane of streets and commerce into the vertical aspiration of faith and contemplation. The temperature drops as we enter, the stone walls holding the coolness of the earth even as candles warm the air with their gentle heat. Our footsteps echo differently here, softer, absorbed by the immensity of the space, as if sound itself becomes reverent within these walls. The ceiling soars impossibly high above us, disappearing into shadow and mystery, the great dome riding on shafts of dying sunlight that stream through windows set so high they seem to pierce the boundary between earth and heaven. We move slowly inward, drawn by the flickering light, by the murmur of prayers already begun, by the magnetic pull of peace that radiates from the very heart of this sacred space. Other worshippers move around us like gentle currents in a calm sea, finding their places, settling into stillness, becoming part of the living prayer that fills this cathedral each evening as the sun descends. We find our own place to stand, to observe, to simply be present in this moment, when the day releases its hold and vespers begin to weave their ancient pattern of sound and silence, light and shadow, human voice and divine echo. The great space settles around us like a blessing, and we settle into it, breathing more slowly now, feeling the day's concerns fall away like leaves from an autumn tree, leaving only the essential self, quiet and attentive, ready to receive whatever peace this evening vigil might offer. The interior of the Hagia Sophia reveals itself gradually to our adjusting eyes, layer upon layer of beauty emerging from the soft darkness like stars appearing in the evening sky. The vast nave stretches before us, its proportions so perfectly balanced that despite its enormous scale, it feels somehow intimate, somehow sheltering, as if the space itself were designed to hold the human spirit gently within its embrace. Rows of columns rise like ancient trees, their marble surfaces glowing pale cream and dusty rose in the candlelight, their capitals carved with such delicacy that stone appears to have been rendered as soft as lace. Between these columns, the space breathes and flows, allowing movement and sight lines that draw the eye ever upward, always upward, toward the great mystery of the dome that floats overhead. And there, covering every surface within reach of the light, the mosaics begin to reveal themselves. Thousands upon thousands of tiny tesserae catching and reflecting the candle flames until the walls themselves seem to be made of captured light. Gold predominates, that deep Byzantine gold that glows from within, but among the golden tessera we see glimpses of deep blue, rich crimson, pure white, colors carefully placed by hands that worked here centuries ago, creating images meant to lift the mind toward contemplation of the divine. Some mosaics show faces, serene, stylized, gazing down with expressions of infinite compassion, while others form patterns that seem to shift and flow as we move, as the candles flicker, as if the walls themselves were breathing. The light plays across these golden surfaces in waves, creating the illusion of gentle movement, of living presence, so that we feel not alone but accompanied by something ancient and benevolent. Candles stand everywhere, in great candelabras taller than a person, in small clusters on stone ledges, in hanging lamps suspended from chains that disappear into the upper darkness. Their flames dance and sway in currents of air too subtle to feel, creating an ever-changing pattern of light and shadow that gives life to the still forms around us. The scent of beeswax is strong here, sweet and clean, mixed with the resinous mystery of frankincense that rises from censers somewhere deeper in the cathedral. This fragrance settles over everything, becoming part of the air we breathe, carrying with it centuries of prayer and devotion, the accumulated peace of countless evening vigils. We can hear the gentle shuffle of feet as worshippers continue to arrive and find their places, the whisper of fabric as someone kneels, the soft clearing of a throat, all small human sounds that somehow enhance rather than disturb the sacred silence. And beneath these sounds, or perhaps woven through them, we begin to hear the voices, not yet formed into chant, but warming up, preparing, individual notes and tones that drift through the space like birds seeking their perches. A bass voice hums somewhere to our left, deep and resonant. A tenor voice answers from the right, clear and bright. Gradually, without any apparent signal, these individual sounds begin to find each other, to harmonize, to create the foundation for the Vespers chant that will soon fill this sacred space with its timeless pattern of praise and contemplation. We stand still, breathing slowly, feeling ourselves become part of this ancient ritual, this nightly transformation of space and time into something that exists outside the ordinary flow of hours and concerns. The chanting begins so gently that at first we cannot quite distinguish it from the ambient sounds of the cathedral. It seems to emerge from the space itself rather than from any particular group of singers. But gradually the sound resolves and clarifies, becoming a flow of ancient Greek syllables sung in harmonies that have remained unchanged for centuries, passed down from one generation of chanters to the next in an unbroken chain of sacred sound. The melody is modal, neither major nor minor in the way we might expect, but something older, something that seems to bypass the thinking mind and speak directly to some deeper layer of consciousness. It rises and falls in long, patient phrases that mirror the rhythm of slow breathing, of waves touching shore, of all natural cycles that require no effort or striving. The voices blend perfectly, no single voice standing out, creating a collective instrument of remarkable purity and power. We can hear the bass voices providing foundation, steady and sure as the stone beneath our feet. Above them, the tenors weave their melodic lines, carrying the words with clarity and devotion. And floating above all, appearing and disappearing like shafts of sunlight through clouds, the higher voices add their particular brightness, their note of celestial longing. The sound fills the enormous volume of the cathedral, not by force, but by natural expansion, growing to occupy every corner, every arch, every shadowed alcove, as water fills a vessel, completely, peacefully, inevitably. The dome above us seems to gather these voices and amplify them, sending them back down in waves that wash over the assembled worshippers with almost physical presence. We can feel the sound as much as hear it, a gentle vibration that resonates in the chest, in the bones, in the very cells of our bodies. This is not music performed for an audience, but prayer made audible, devotion transformed into organized sound, and we are not listeners but participants, even in our silence. The golden mosaics respond to the chanting, or so it seems, the flickering candlelight making the tesserae shimmer and pulse as if in rhythm with the voices, as if the very walls were singing along. The faces depicted in the mosaics gaze down with serene expressions that seem to soften and deepen in the living light, as if those ancient saints and holy figures were themselves moved by the beauty of this evening offering. Time begins to lose its usual meaning here, as it always does when we enter fully into the present moment. The chant continues, phrase flowing into phrase, verse into verse, and we make no effort to follow the words or understand their meaning. The meaning is in the sound itself, in the devotion that shapes it, in the peace it creates in the listening. Minutes pass, or perhaps longer. We cannot tell and do not care. The world outside these walls seems very distant now, almost unreal, while this candlelit space of sound and contemplation becomes the only reality that matters. We notice our breathing has synchronized with the rhythm of the chant, long, slow inhalations and gentle releases, our body naturally finding the pattern of peace that flows through this sacred space. Our shoulders drop, our jaw relaxes, our hands rest quietly at our sides or folded loosely before us. We are held here, suspended in this moment, this evening, this ancient ritual that has outlasted empires and will continue long after we have become part of the dust and memory of this great city. And in this suspension, this letting go of time and concern, we find something precious, a glimpse of that deep peace that exists always beneath the surface of our busy lives, waiting patiently for us to stop and notice, to breathe and receive, to simply be present in the eternal now. The chanting continues its timeless pattern, and we find ourselves drawn deeper into the experience, noticing smaller details, subtler beauties that reveal themselves only to patient attention. The way a particular voice emerges briefly from the collective sound before blending back into the whole, like a single wave rising from the ocean before returning to it. The way the candlelight finds a particular curve of mosaic and makes it glow with sudden intensity before moving on. The way our own heartbeat seems to slow and deepen, matching itself to the rhythm of this sacred song. A priest moves slowly through the nave, carrying a censer on long golden chains, swinging it gently so that frankincense smoke billows out in fragrant clouds that catch the candlelight and glow like amber mist. The smoke rises and spreads, adding another layer to the atmosphere, another dimension to the sensory experience of this place. It drifts past us, carrying its ancient scent, and we breathe it in, feeling it settle into our lungs like a blessing. The ritual movements of the priest are slow and deliberate, each gesture performed with careful attention, nothing rushed, nothing careless. He pauses before an icon depicting the Virgin, bowing deeply, the censer continuing its rhythmic swing, the smoke rising like prayers made visible. We watch these movements with a sense of deep satisfaction, recognizing in them the same quality we observed in the merchants closing their stalls, the shopkeepers completing their tasks, the peace that comes from doing what one has done countless times before, with full attention and respect for the doing. The worshippers around us have settled into stillness now, most standing quietly with heads slightly bowed, some kneeling on the stone floor, all maintaining a reverent silence beneath the flowing chant. They are young and old, richly dressed and simply clothed, individuals from all quarters of this vast city who have come together in this space to mark the day's ending, to acknowledge something larger than their individual concerns. In their stillness, we see reflected our own inner quietness, and the collective peace of the assembly amplifies and deepens our personal peace until we cannot quite tell where our experience ends and the communal experience begins. We are separate and together, individual and united, alone and accompanied all at once. The light continues to shift and change as candles burn down, and others are quietly lit by attendants who move like shadows among the worshippers. Their task performed with such discretion, we barely notice them until they are gone, and new light blooms where darkness had begun to gather. This tending of the light seems itself a form of prayer, a practical devotion that keeps the sacred space luminous and welcoming. Outside, beyond the thick walls and high windows, evening has deepened toward night, but we are only dimly aware of this transition. Inside, in the candlelit sanctuary, time moves differently, or perhaps does not move at all, but simply is, one eternal moment of peace and presence endlessly renewing itself. The chant shifts to a new section, the melody becoming softer, slower, the intervals wider and more contemplative. The voices drop to a near whisper, and we must listen more carefully to follow the thread of sound. This quieting draws us inward, encourages an even deeper letting go, a further release of tension and thought. We feel ourselves becoming empty, peaceful, receptive. Not empty in the sense of lacking, but in the sense of spaciousness, of room for something new, something nourishing to enter. And what enters is simply more peace, more of this gentle atmosphere of devotion and calm, filling us as the chant fills the cathedral, naturally and completely, requiring no effort on our part beyond the willingness to receive. The Vespers chant moves toward its conclusion now, the voices gathering for a final collective phrase that rises gently before settling into silence, as naturally as a bird alighting on a branch. The sound does not stop abruptly, but fades gradually, tapering away until we cannot quite identify the moment when chanting becomes silence. There is only the transition from sound to stillness, both equally sacred, equally full. And then the silence itself becomes the offering, the entire assembly standing together in wordless communion, the absence of sound somehow more eloquent than any song. This silence is not empty, but rich with presence, with attention, with the accumulated devotion of everyone gathered in this space. It holds us gently, asking nothing, offering everything. We rest in it, as we might rest in the arms of someone who loves us without condition, without expectation. Our breathing is slow and deep now, barely perceptible, the rhythm of complete relaxation and trust. The candles continue their patient burning, their flames steady in the still air, creating pools of golden light in the vast darkness of the cathedral. The mosaics glow softly, the gold tesserae seeming to hold their own luminescence, independent of the candles, as if the walls themselves were made of gentle light. The faces in the mosaics maintain their expressions of infinite compassion and peace, and we feel their gaze as a blessing, an acknowledgement of our presence, our seeking, our willingness to pause and be still. Slowly, with no apparent signal, the worshippers begin to move again, not leaving, not yet, but shifting slightly, relaxing from formal prayer postures into something more natural. Some sit on the stone floor, leaning against columns. Others remain standing, but with easier postures, hands clasped loosely, heads raised to gaze at the dome or the mosaics or into the middle distance of contemplation. A few do begin to make their way toward the doors, moving with the same quiet reverence they brought to their arrival, as if carrying some of the cathedral's peace with them as they return to the evening city. But we are in no hurry to leave this place. There is nowhere we need to be, nothing we need to do. The evening will unfold as evenings do, and we will be part of that unfolding. But for now, for this lingering moment, we remain in the sanctuary, absorbing its peace, letting its ancient calm settle into our bones and blood. We have journeyed from the city gates through the markets and now through this sacred space, each step taking us deeper into the heart of Constantinople's evening, deeper into quietness, deeper into the peace that is always available to those who seek it with patience and open hearts. Beyond these walls, we know the palace gardens await with their fountains and night-blooming flowers, another layer of tranquility to explore, another invitation to deepening rest. But that will come in its own time. For now, we simply stand in the gentle darkness, surrounded by golden light and ancient stone, held in the silence that follows prayer, feeling completely at peace, completely at home in this moment, in this breath, in this eternal now that asks nothing of us except our presence, our attention, our willingness to receive the gift of sacred stillness. The cathedral will remain here through the night, its candles burning, its golden walls glowing, its peace undiminished, a sanctuary always open, always offering its blessing to all who enter, seeking rest. And so, we take our leave of the cathedral's sacred embrace, carrying its peace within us as we step back through the great doorway into the night air. The transition is gentle, seamless, as though the blessing of that holy space extends outward into the world beyond its walls. The evening has deepened now into true darkness, and the city has settled into its quietest hours, that peaceful time when the day's energy has ebbed away and the night's profound stillness begins to take hold. We turn our steps toward the palace complex, that magnificent center of imperial power and Byzantine grandeur, where gardens of extraordinary beauty await those privileged enough to wander within their walls. The path leads us through a colonnade where marble columns rise like pale sentinels in the torchlight, their surfaces smooth and cool, carved centuries ago by master craftsmen whose names are lost to time but whose work endures. The air here tastes different, cleaner, somehow, perfumed with growing things, with water and earth, and the particular freshness that gardens hold, even in the heart of a great city. As we pass through an arched gateway, its bronze doors standing open in welcome, we enter a realm transformed, a place where the ordered beauty of human design merges seamlessly with the organic grace of nature. The palace gardens spread before us like a living tapestry, carefully cultivated paths winding between beds of flowers and herbs, between fruit trees trained into elegant shapes and shrubs trimmed with artistic precision. This is a space created for contemplation, for quiet walking, for the restoration of spirits wearied by the demands of empire and governance. The silence here feels different from the cathedral's holy hush. This is the silence of growing things, of earth breathing, of water finding its level, of life continuing its eternal cycles in peaceful darkness. We walk slowly, allowing our eyes to adjust, discovering the garden's nighttime character, the way it transforms when the sun's bright revelation gives way to shadow and starlight, and the gentle illumination of torches placed at thoughtful intervals along the winding paths. The first sound that greets us, beyond the whisper of our own footsteps on the stone path, is the musical trickling of water. Fountains are scattered throughout these gardens, each one a small miracle of engineering and artistry, bringing the precious gift of flowing water into this cultivated paradise. We follow the sound to its source and discover a fountain of exquisite design. A circular basin of pale marble, its rim carved with intricate patterns of vines and pomegranates, symbols of abundance and eternal life. From the center rises a bronze figure, age darkened to a rich patina, water flowing from a vessel it holds, the stream catching the torchlight as it falls, creating a constant, gentle music that seems to resonate with something deep within us. Some ancient recognition of water as life, as peace, as continuity. We pause beside this fountain, watching the water's endless falling, the way ripples spread across the basin's surface, overlapping, intersecting, creating patterns of mathematical perfection that exist for only a moment before dissolving and reforming. The sound fills the space around us, not loudly, but completely, a soft susurration that somehow makes the silence deeper, more present. The air around the fountain feels cooler, slightly moist, refreshing against the skin. We notice how the moisture has encouraged moss to grow in the carved crevices of the marble, adding touches of deep green to the pale stone. How small ferns have taken root in the spaces where the fountain's base meets the ground, creating a miniature landscape of delicate fronds and gentle textures. This is water as meditation, water as blessing, water as a reminder that some things continue endlessly, reliably, offering their gifts without cease. Around the fountain, the garden reveals more of its nighttime secrets. Night-blooming flowers have opened their petals to the darkness, releasing fragrances that the day-blooming varieties keep folded away. We catch the scent of jasmine first, sweet and heady, but not overwhelming, drifting on the slight evening breeze. Then other fragrances layer over it, the subtle perfume of evening primrose, the mysterious scent of moonflowers, pale and ghostly in the torchlight, and underneath it, all the green smell of growing things, of earth and leaves, and the particular freshness of a well-tended garden. Each breath brings new discoveries, subtle variations in the aromatic tapestry that surrounds us. As we continue along the path, moving deeper into the garden's peaceful embrace, we notice we are not entirely alone in this nighttime sanctuary. Palace attendants move quietly through the space, performing their evening duties with the calm precision that comes from long practice and careful training. These are servants of the Imperial household, men and women whose role is to maintain the perfection of these gardens, to ensure that everything remains in its proper place, that order and beauty continue uninterrupted through all hours of the day and night. We observe them from a respectful distance, appreciating the quiet grace of their movements. One figure carries a long pole with a taper at its end, moving from torch to torch, checking each flame, adjusting wicks. ensuring that the gentle illumination will continue through the dark hours. The task is performed with mindful attention, each torch receiving the same careful consideration, the attendant moving with unhurried steps from one pool of light to the next. Another servant tends to the plants themselves, walking slowly along the beds, removing a dead leaf here, gently training a vine there, working with the loving attention of someone who knows each plant individually, who understands its needs and nature. There is something deeply peaceful about watching work performed with such care, such absence of haste or anxiety. These attendants are not rushed or stressed. They move through their duties as a form of meditation, as a way of being present in the moment, of offering service with dignity and calm presence. They acknowledge our presence with small nods, gentle smiles, but do not interrupt their work or disturb the garden's tranquility with unnecessary conversation. We are all participants in this evening ritual, this tending of beauty, this maintenance of peace. The torchlight catches the gold thread in their simple robes, the careful embroidery at collar and cuff that denotes their position in the palace hierarchy, and we understand that even in service there is dignity, that all work performed with attention and care becomes meaningful, becomes part of the larger harmony that this place embodies. We continue walking, following a path that winds between beds of herbs. We recognize rosemary and sage, lavender and thyme, plants both practical and beautiful, their fragrances released by the slight warmth still rising from the sun-soaked earth. The path turns, and suddenly we can see beyond the garden walls to the city spread out below. From this elevated vantage point in the palace gardens, Constantinople reveals itself in its nighttime aspect, transformed by darkness and distance into something almost dreamlike, a vision of golden light scattered across the dark landscape like fallen stars. The city glows softly in the distance, countless oil lamps and torches creating a warm constellation that mirrors the stars above. We can distinguish the brighter illuminations of major buildings, churches with their vigil lights, important public structures, the harbor district where ships' lanterns bob and sway with the gentle movement of the water. But mostly, what we see is a soft, diffuse glow, the cumulative light of thousands of individual flames, each one representing a home, a family, a life continuing its quiet rhythms through the peaceful night. From here, all the city's complexity is simplified into pure beauty. It sounds too distant to disturb, its energy transformed by space into a gentle, steady radiance. The view reminds us of the vast human tapestry of which we are a part, all these lives unfolding simultaneously, each person seeking the same essential things: safety, sustenance, connection, rest. And beyond the city, dark and infinite, stretches the Bosphorus, that ancient waterway connecting seas and civilizations, its presence more felt than seen in the darkness. A vast breathing emptiness between the scattered lights of the European and Asian shores. We stand quietly, taking in this vista, feeling ourselves suspended between the intimate garden around us and the vast world beyond, between the immediate present moment and the sweep of history that this place represents. The night breeze stirs the leaves around us, carries the distant sound of a bell tolling the hour, brings the faint salt tang of the sea mixed with the garden's perfumes. We breathe slowly, deeply, feeling ourselves part of this moment, this place, this eternal dance between civilization and nature, between human aspiration and the patient rhythms of earth and water and growing things. The garden here opens into a small terraced area where stone benches invite rest and contemplation. We settle onto one of these seats, still warm from the day's sun, its surface smooth from centuries of use. From this position, we can see both the city's distant glow and the garden's immediate beauty, can hear both the fountain's nearby music and the far-off sounds of the harbor, can smell both the flowers beside us and the sea breeze from beyond the walls. Everything exists in perfect balance, in harmonious relationship. Time seems to slow in this peaceful garden sanctuary, the moments stretching and softening like honey flowing from a jar, sweet and golden and unhurried. We sit in perfect stillness, allowing the garden's peace to deepen within us, feeling our breathing synchronize with the fountain's rhythm, with the gentle movement of leaves in the night breeze, with the slow, patient turning of the earth beneath us. The palace attendants have completed their rounds and departed on silent feet, leaving us alone with the night and the garden and the distant glimmer of the city. The torches burn steadily, their flames barely wavering, creating pools of amber light that make the surrounding darkness feel embracing rather than threatening, like a soft blanket drawn close against the chill. We notice details we had missed before, the way certain flowers seem to glow with accumulated starlight, the intricate patterns of shadow cast by the cypress trees onto the pale stone paths, the subtle music created by the interaction of breeze and water and leaves, a natural symphony requiring no human intervention, playing itself into existence moment by moment. Our eyelids grow heavy with the sweetness of this peace, with the accumulated calm of our entire evening journey through Constantinople. From the city gates at sunset, through the aromatic markets and silk merchants' quarters, into the sacred silence of the great cathedral. And now here, in this perfected garden, where nature and human artistry achieve a balance so complete it feels effortless, inevitable, eternal. We understand that we could rest here, could allow sleep to find us in this protected space, surrounded by beauty and peace, watched over by the ancient walls of the palace, serenaded by fountains and the distant sea. The garden will continue its quiet existence through all the hours of darkness. The flowers will continue blooming, the water will continue flowing, the earth will continue its patient turning toward dawn. But that is still many hours away, and for now there is only this perfect present, this moment of absolute tranquility, this gift of peace that the garden offers freely to all who enter with open hearts and quiet minds. We rest here, cradled by beauty, embraced by silence, held gently in the eternal now that exists between the city's golden lights and the infinite stars above, between the day that has passed and the tomorrow that will eventually come, but not yet, not for hours still, leaving us here in this suspended moment of perfect, absolute peace. And in this suspended moment, we find ourselves drawn even deeper into the quietude, into the soft embrace of night that has fully settled over the ancient city now, a darkness that is not empty, but filled with the gentlest presence of starlight and the whisper of the Bosphorus far below our quiet courtyard sanctuary. The marble bench beneath us has released the last of the day's warmth, now cool and smooth, inviting us to settle more completely, to release any final holding in our shoulders, our breath, our thoughts. From somewhere in the distance, so far away it might almost be imagined, comes the sound of a bell, a single note that rises through the night air and then fades, leaving only the memory of its tone, a bronze whisper that the breeze carries past us and out over the dark waters. The stars above have grown brighter as our eyes adjust to the darkness, each point of light steady and eternal, the same stars that have watched over this city through centuries of sunrises and sunsets, through the turning of countless seasons, through the lives of emperors and merchants, sailors and scholars, all now gone to their rest as we go to ours. The cypress trees that line the courtyard wall stand in perfect stillness, their dark silhouettes barely moving, barely breathing, as if they too are settling into the deep peace of this hour. And the air, the night air that touches our face and hands, carries with it the coolest relief, the gentle temperature that exists only in these hours after the earth has released its warmth to the sky, when everything softens and quiets and turns inward. Below us, down the terraced levels of the palace complex, down past the gardens and the walls, the harbor waters continue their eternal rhythm, lapping softly against the ancient stones, a sound so constant it becomes part of the silence, part of the great stillness that holds us here. And we can feel it now, how the city itself is sleeping, how even this great metropolis of countless souls has found its rest, the streets empty and calm, the workshops silent, the markets dark, everyone released into their own dreams, their own quiet night, while we remain here in this courtyard, this perfect vantage point between earth and sky, between the solid stone beneath us and the infinite expanse above. We can let our gaze drift upward now, following the natural inclination of this quiet hour, allowing our eyes to trace the patterns of stars that scatter across the dome of heaven, constellations that the ancients knew by name, stories written in light across the darkness. There, perhaps, is the path the old sailors would follow, the patterns they would read while guiding their vessels across these very waters, trusting in the steady presence of those distant suns to show them the way home. And we too are finding our way home now, not through the physical world, but into the deeper country of rest, that interior landscape where the day's concerns release their hold and drift away like morning mist. The stone wall of the courtyard is cool against our back if we lean into it, solid and reassuring, built centuries ago by hands long since turned to dust, and yet still here, still performing its patient duty of holding space, of marking boundaries, of creating this sheltered place where night can be observed in safety and peace. A slight breeze stirs now, so gentle we might not have noticed, if not for the way it carries a new scent toward us, something floral and faint, perhaps from the palace gardens on a lower terrace, night-blooming flowers opening their petals to the darkness, sharing their fragrance with the quiet air. And with this breeze comes also the distant sound of water, not the harbor waves, but something closer, the fountain in the eastern corner of the courtyard. Its trickle so soft and consistent it becomes like another form of silence, a liquid quiet that somehow deepens the peace rather than disturbing it. Our breathing has slowed without our noticing, falling into rhythm with these gentle sounds, with the patient movement of the night, each breath a little deeper, a little more releasing, letting go of whatever the day held, whatever thoughts or worries rode on our shoulders, all of it flowing away now, carried off on this cool evening breeze. The marble columns that frame the courtyard archway glow very faintly with reflected starlight, their surfaces smooth from centuries of similar nights, polished by time and weather into a subtle sheen that catches even the dimmest light. Everything here speaks of endurance, of the long patience of stone and stars, of cycles that repeat in their reassuring patterns, season after season, year after year, century flowing into century. And we are held within this continuity, this ancient rhythm that asks nothing of us but to rest, to be present, to allow this moment to be exactly what it is. Time has become something different here, something that no longer moves in the familiar forward march, but instead seems to deepen, to expand in all directions at once, creating a space that is both momentary and eternal, both now and always. The darkness that surrounds us is complete now, velvety and rich, broken only by starlight and the very distant glow of a few oil lamps still burning in the city below, tiny points of amber warmth that flicker and hold steady, like drowsy eyes fighting sleep, and then, perhaps one by one, going dark as their keepers finally surrender to the night. We can hear, if we listen very carefully, the subtle sounds of the city's sleep, somewhere a shutter closing, the soft footfall of a late-night watchman on his rounds, the gentle creak of a ship's timber adjusting to the changing tide. These sounds do not disturb, but rather confirm the rightness of this hour, the appropriateness of rest, the natural order that brings activity to a close and invites stillness to take its place. Our own body has become heavy now, pleasantly weighted, sinking more deeply into the support beneath us, every muscle releasing its daily work, every joint softening, every held place letting go. The coolness of the stone, the softness of the air, the gentle presence of the starlight, all of it combines into a single sensation of being held, being supported, being allowed to simply be without effort or intention. Another bell sounds from far away, answered by another from a different quarter of the city, the tones overlapping briefly before fading into the night, marking an hour that no longer matters, a time that has become irrelevant to us here in this place outside of time. The Bosphorus continues its whispered conversation with the shore, words in a language older than human speech, a rhythm that predates the city, predates the walls and domes and palaces, predates everything except the earth and water and sky. And we are part of this ancient dialogue now, our own breath joining the conversation, adding our small rhythm to the greater rhythm, our individual rest merging with the rest of the sleeping world. The stars turn slowly overhead, their wheeling so gradual it appears as stillness, and yet we know they are moving through their ordained paths, tracing patterns that will not complete within our lifetime or our children's lifetime, dancing their slow, celestial dance while we, brief as candle flames, rest in the shelter they provide. In this deepening quiet, even the small sounds begin to fade, Or perhaps it is our attention that fades, our awareness drawing inward, finding the interior silence that mirrors the exterior peace. The fountain's trickle becomes part of our own blood's movement. The wave's rhythm becomes our heartbeat. The cool breeze becomes our breath, all boundaries softening, all distinctions blurring into a unified field of rest. Our eyes may close now, if they haven't already, or remain half open. It makes no difference, for what we are seeing now is not with physical sight, but with some deeper perception, some ancient knowing that requires no effort, no focus, only allowing. The darkness behind our eyelids is the same darkness that holds the city, holds the water, holds the stars themselves between their points of light. A darkness that is not absence, but presence, not emptiness, but fullness. The rich nothing from which everything emerges and to which everything returns. We can feel the earth beneath us, beneath the stone, beneath the foundations of the palace. The solid, patient earth that holds us always, spinning slowly through the void, keeping us safe on its surface, asking nothing in return but that we trust its faithful turning. And we do trust it. We release our weight to it completely, knowing it will hold us through the night, will carry us through the dark hours, and deliver us when the time comes to another morning. But that morning is infinitely far away, so distant it need not concern us. For here in this moment, we have everything we need: shelter and starlight, coolness and quiet, the gentle presence of the ancient city dreaming around us. Perhaps we are aware of our breath now, or perhaps breath has become automatic again, something the body does without our participation, while our consciousness floats free, drifting like a leaf on the surface of a very calm pond, moving without direction, resting without effort. The marble has absorbed our warmth, or we have absorbed its coolness, and there is no longer a difference, no longer a boundary between body and bench, between self and courtyard, between the observer and the observed. We are simply here, simply present, simply being, in this timeless space that the night has opened for us, this sanctuary that the stars have blessed, this peace that the ancient city has gifted us with its own deep, dreaming silence. And now there is only this breath, this moment, this infinite peaceful now. The stars continue their silent watch, the water continues its gentle song, the city breathes its slow sleeping breath, and we are held within it all, safe, supported, completely at rest. There is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, no thought that needs thinking, no worry that needs worrying, only this softness, this darkness, this peace. The courtyard holds us, the night embraces us, the ancient stones remember all the sleepers who have rested here before and will rest here after, and we join that timeless company now, releasing, softening, letting go. The boundaries of awareness grow thin, diffuse, dissolving into the greater darkness, into the all-surrounding quiet. We are the stillness, we are the starlight, we are the gentle breath of the sleeping city, no longer separate, no longer apart, simply here, simply now, simply being. Rest comes not as something we do, but as something we allow, as something that happens when we stop preventing it, and we have stopped preventing it now, surrendered to this inevitable tide, this natural return, this blessed release. The Bosphorus whispers its ancient lullaby. The breeze carries its cool blessing. The stars rain down their peaceful light, and we receive it all, absorb it all, become it all. There is nothing more to say, nothing more to describe, only this fading, this floating, this final soft descent into the deep waters of sleep, where we will be held and protected and renewed until the world turns once more toward morning. But that is hours away, so many hours away, and here, now, in this perfect Byzantine night, we rest, we sleep, we dream, held safe in the arms of the ancient city, beneath the eternal stars, beside the patient waters, forever and always, at peace, at peace. Thank you for listening tonight. If this story helped you drift off, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more calming stories. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you next time.